Okay, so let's talk about the naming convention in C#. I'm gonna take this class I already created and I already defined some variables here. The naming convention in C# is pretty much same to other .NET languages, but let's repeat what it is actually. So the public variables you usually defined in this camel case where you follow that every first character of a letter is capital. So in this way, for example, I have first name. Here F is going to be capital and N is going to be capital. And the same goes for any other public variable. But if you have a private variable, you usually initialize it with underscore, and then you follow the camel case in this way, camel case, where the very first character is small, and then every remaining letter has the first letter character capital one. Okay, but then we have local variables. For local variables, we always follow the lowercase order, but for example, if we have something else, if I have, let's say, my full name here, so usually we don't write it together. Instead of this, we just put underscore to make it more readable. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But we also have got some rules for naming variables in C#. So, for example, your name can start with any character. It does not matter if it's like small or capital character. And it can start with underscore. It can start with @sign. It can have digits inside, but it can never be started with the character, with the number. For example, here 1, 2, 3 imply is an invalid one. So like we had this example full name here, this is valid, so you can have underscore in between or even after if you want, if it makes sense. But usually we don't have at the end. But you can never have a space between. That's an invalid one. Some other rules are, so every variable in C# is case sensitive. For example, this variable salary will be completely different than if I have another variable salary but with a different case where it's capitalized and this one is lowercase. So both of them, they are totally different one, even if I have the same data type. So in this way you can see like I have a variable string address and then another variable address with the data type of string. The only difference is like this is lowercase and this one is capitalized, but they are totally different variables, which means they will be two variables. Another thing, you can actually redefine a variable if you already defined. For example, if I want to define a variable salary now, if I want to define it again here, it will give me an error that it's already defined. Okay, so other naming conventions. So the variable should be clear enough to give its meaning. For example, if you're dealing with address of the employee, we can have it either address or employee address. So to understand these two a bit more, you can say, for example, in a program, if you're dealing with only one address, you don't need to provide like so specific name because you don't have so many variables which will deal related to address. But to be more specific, it's a good idea to go with this way. Then when you're reading the program later on, you will be clearly knowing about, like, it's this variable, it holds employee address. About the local variable, as we already discussed, they should be in this camel case. So they could be is administrator, has balance, is activated. So by this local variable means if we have a function, and inside that function we want to have some variables, they should be actually clear enough to convey their meaning. For example, if we want to know if a user is logged in or not, we can say like, is user logged in? That's a meaningful variable name. And for the public modifiers, Pascal or camel case, we already saw it. For example, if we are dealing with name, we can specify which kind of name we are dealing with. First name, last name, full address. So we can go this way. Private modifiers always start in C#. We usually, it's a good convention. It's not like a restriction. You can just define the variable the way you want unless they are lying on these conditions. But according to the good practice, you should start it with an underscore and then camel case. And about these local variables, you can either have them in this way, or you can just have them lowercase, though we already saw them here. So that was all about the naming convention in C#. And next video we're gonna talk about further the C#.